Right, well, welcome back, everyone. We're on the road again. It's like my brother, this man, isn't he? Look, he's like my younger, better-looking brother. Same barbers, same coats actually as well. So we probably should have, talked fashion before we started. So for those of you who haven't met this man, this is a name that has taken the show scene in the Novice section by storm over the last 12 months. It is, of course, Lee Westerman. Now, luckily enough, I've known Lee for a couple of years, I think now, mate. We thought, having done, I think, 8 shows last year and won 5 Best Novices, is that right?
Yep, that's right.
So I thought, let's come and have a look and let's come and see what Lee's doing. And I think for anyone starting out with any variety of bird, if you choose to show them or not, I think we'll listen to Lee over the next half an hour or so and see some of the things that he's done that have done, demonstrated with really good performance on the show bench. So, as always, everyone, grab yourself a cuppa, sit back, and enjoy the show. So, Lee, we're in. This man's got the bug big time because we're in one of 2 rooms in the Westerman stud. So. You sort of put the first room up and then decided that you needed another one. And Dawn's been very, very supportive for this, hasn't she? You would say Dawn was supportive. You're on camera. Yes.
Yeah, I've got to. Yes,
yeah. And you've got eyes on the way Lee's sort of set out here is fabulous because there's a little bar over there as well, which has caught my eye. The birds in here have caught my eye. The bar's caught my eye as well. So I know you've got some eyes on that perhaps for Bird Room 3 at a later date. Maybe we won't.
To be confirmed.
Yeah, maybe we won't put that on camera. So 2 rooms, two breeding sheds, which I think is super useful. This is the main breeding room in here for the Fifes.
It is, yeah.
Fabulous cages, lovely laid out room, and there's a real. I think one of the things which is really obvious to me in here is there's a real order. So there's a structure, and that I think the Canary room sometimes can be a bit higgledy-piggledy, and I try and put structure to it. And I think as individuals, we sort of need that structure and order. I think where you've got the baths sort of all in place on a shelf. You've got the show cage, training cages on shelves. You've got blinds to modify the light in here. You've got the dimmers and everything else in here. And then, of course, most importantly, you've got the birds and you've got the cages. But you've got that height, haven't you? So you've gone 6 high on the cages?
Yeah, it is 6 high. And I know some people think it's too high, but when you youngsters off, they can be up there out of way, and it gives me more room. I haven't got a massive garden, so I want to make the most of the room I have got, and this shed was made to measure for these cages. So I spoke to Dave Rands, who made the cages beforehand, got the measurements, and then the guy built the shed to fit the cages, sort of thing.
Yeah, which I think that sort of forward planning is always something good. So sort of volume of cages in here. It looks like we've got 3 banks of 4x6. Is that right? Yeah.
72 cages in total in this room.
I'm glad you did the maths dead quickly there, Lee. I was looking at it thinking that'll be a lot of cages. So and the birds are in. We're filming this early March, and the birds are in good. They're in good form, aren't they, mate? I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, the fit. I try and condition my birds to come into condition around halfway through February. Some will be a little bit before, which they're already down on eggs, and some will be a little bit after, but I like to get done early, get them through molt, and the show season keeps moving forward. So I think as bird keepers we have to try and breed like that as well. Yeah,
I think it's a really important point, that I think when you think about the show season, it is moving forward. I think we've got another show planned for the end of September now, and there's lots of shows in October. In fact, I think across the season, I think we've got at least one show every weekend from the end of September, last week in September, right the way through till the weekend before Christmas. So plenty of busy times, and we our work cut out to get all across the country. So this room here, lovely spacey room, and then Room 2. Well, Room 2 is an interesting room, isn't it? That was your breeding room. Was it your breeding room last year? Yeah.
Yeah. I started out with a small shed. I picked up a shed for 150 quid and lined it and got a local cage maker to do me some cages, and I thought I'd have a go. Started off, I didn't start off small, but I started off with just see if I like it. And then it escalated. I got too many hens for what I should have had, so I'd have no room for young, so I had no choice but to keep building.
Happens to the best of us, mate. Happens to the best of us, yeah. Too many hens, doesn't matter, there's an empty cage, let's get a hen in it. And that room now houses, it's been nice to see them actually, because a couple of them have come from the Canary room. It houses some British native finches at the moment, so you've got some poles in there, the mutation siskins that came from me, and a mewling pair. So not content with dominating the novice five scene, but you've also got a mewling pair, a Goldie cock, and a really nice Norwich hen.
Yeah, it's a bit of interest. It's something else to have a look at and to watch and breed. I love breeding season anyway. It's as good as anything else with keeping birds. So I'd like to breed some British this year and just see how I get on.
Yeah, super stuff. Wonderful. Well, I'm sure we'll catch up with all of them throughout the show, and I'm sure at some stage we'll have a look in the bar too. So Lee, we talked about your success on the show bench, and we'll have a quick look back now. First and foremost, when your first appearance on the Canary Room, because this is Lee's second appearance on the channel. So your first appearance, we caught up with you at Hull. Yep. with your first best novice. So let's have a quick look at that now. So we're here with this young chap who's frankly is built like the front row. So we're not going to argue with him, but remember the name, Westerman, like James Bond, Lee Westerman. Lee, your first show. Now I've known Lee for about 12 months. It's his first show. He's kept birds before, but it's his first season with Fifes. And he's not only done well, he's done incredibly well. So it's his first show as a novice, and he's won it. He's won Best Novice, and he's won Best Novice 10% as well. Yeah, so Best Novice Clear and Best Novice 10%. And it's a clear buff hen that's won it. Is that right? Yeah. It's an absolute, we can see it. It's an absolutely stunning bird. Really, really, really beautiful bird. I got some footage of it earlier on. It stands beautifully, really, really shows itself beautifully. So Lee, what's the secret to your success?
I think it's just getting good birds, you know what I mean? I've got good birds from Gerald, and if you start with good stock, then you can go all right. It's difficult. There's a lot of good birds here today, so I'm really pleased with all my birds are doing well.
And I think that's the best. We said earlier on, didn't we? You've got to, wherever you go, you win with grace, and if you don't win, you lose with grace. And you've certainly won with grace today, mate. Listen, really well done.
Cheers, buddy.
Really, really well done.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
So I have to say, mate, you've aged well since then. You've aged well since that time, and that was your first show, and I think we can see from the footage it was a sort of selection of sort of I guess a little bit of disbelief, excitement, joy, and that reward at the end of a long breeding season, because the breeding season is long, and we put a lot of work into it to get that first special. It wasn't just one special, was it? Because I think you won 2 colours, did you, that day?
2 colours, yeah, and Best Novice, which I didn't expect to win anything, and I'll be honest. I spoke to you outside, and you knew that by then what had happened. You've been filming inside, but I had no clue, but I was really happy to win anything, so when I won Best Novice, I was really pleased.
Yeah, and I think for me, one of the things, and we've chatted a little bit off camera, for me, one of the things with the Fifes at the moment is I think it's potentially the most competitive novice section that I've seen in the last 2 decades. And so I think the achievements of you and some of the other novices are notable achievements, noteworthy achievements, because I think that it's one of the most competitive novice scenes I've seen. Over the last sort of two decades or so, there's been some really strong novices, and they've come up and they've had good champions, and they've stayed good champions, and too many to name check. But I think at the moment we've got yourselves, we've got the ABF Fife lads, we've got Grimmer and Hornby, we've got Terry Hardy, we've got Dave Cheshire, we've got Matt Dando, we've got Colin and John, Kennedy and O'Keefe. So there is, I probably missed somebody out.
Malcolm Papp.
Malcolm Papp, yeah. So we've got a number of sort of good novices with really good birds, and not just one or two really good birds. They've got studs of really good birds, and they've got teams of really good birds. And I think so, you know, you had a tremendous amount of success last year. I think for the people watching the show today, to contextualise that, this is not, you know, one man just dominating the section. That it's a really, really competitive section.
It is, yeah. I mean, you can look at Midland, or you look at 520 birds just in the novices. I mean, in the clay section there must have been 150 birds or 140 birds. It's tough, and to win you need a little bit of luck as well. You need a little bit of luck, you know. Sometimes you might have the best bird there, but if it doesn't perform on the day, it's going to finish nowhere.
Yeah.
So you need that bit of luck.
And I think that's sort of, you know, you're in your second season with Fifes now. That's right, isn't it? And I think that kind of honesty is really important, because one of the things that I've noticed as well is you've spent an awful lot of time learning your craft.
Yeah.
So, you know, you spent an awful lot of time, you and I have spent a lot of time on the phone, and, you know, it's actually the first time I've been to Lee's, but we've spent a fair amount of time on the phone, both before you got your birds and then subsequently having got your birds. You've obviously spent a fair amount of time in the company of Gerald. You spent amount of time with Adam and the Kendall stud as well. So, you know, there's you sort of, I guess it's fair to say you've done your homework with the birds, but you're doing it your way.
Yeah, if I do anything, I like to do it right. That's the thing. And going and looking at, watching what people do and learning from seeing how they do it, rather than someone telling you or reading a book. Or plus, obviously, we're watching the Canary Room, speaking to you and other top fanciers. I've learned bits, and then I've done what's best for me. Like, everyone's got a slightly different take on things. What I try and do is what fits in with my job and my lifestyle, which you'll do the same with your birds. That's all you can do. It's all right if you're in shed all day long, you can just run your birds in all day long. But if you can't do that, you've got to work around it. And to be fair, I think it was Matt Dando that helped me out with that, with his job, and he was running the birds in different style, and that worked for me.
Yeah. No, good stuff. It's been, you know, super competitive, I think, the novices this year. And as a sort of seasoned fancier, it's wonderful to see, because it's lovely. And as a judge, you know, it's lovely to see some real quality birds in front of you. So, success-wise, Lee, you'll be slightly more modest than I'll be on your behalf. 8 shows, and you won the Clear Special on 8 occasions.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. I had a strong team of Clears, to be fair. That was my biggest team. My Clears and 10% did really well for me this year. And, the season coming, I'm hoping to strengthen in variegators and greens and bring a better standard of bird. Not saying that they'll win, but a better standard than I had this year. I think breeding your own hens is really important. You can get good hens, but the hens that are going to win at show bench, people don't tend to let them go for a good reason. So I think this year I've got a bit of an advantage over last year. If I have a good breeding season, fingers crossed, yeah. I ought to be competitive again. Yeah,
well, I'm sure you will be, mate, and we'll have we'll follow you on the show bench with interest. You've touched on it, your job, so we'll have a little chat about that now, because he's got a fascinating job, and actually the some of the disciplines of that job have really helped him out in the bird room. So, Lee, we've alluded to it. I'm looking forward, actually. I've been looking forward to this visit for some time, but one of the main reasons I'm looking forward to it, of course, of seeing Lee and meeting Dawn and seeing Lee's fantastic birds, is that Lee's a chef, and I'm going to... he's promised me a fabulous lunch, and so I'm going to photograph it and show it you, and then I'll give you scores out of 10 at the end of it. But actually, Lee, when I talk about chef, you done work in training and nutrition,
yeah,
and that sort of, that's day job, isn't it? Really, that's that sort of side of things. The nutrition side of things is what you've done, and that knowledge has been something that you brought over into the room.
Yeah, I sort of did a bit of research on what the birds need at different times of year, and rather than using too many supplements, I try and give them it in food form. So adding vitamins or minerals or calcium, I'll try and use that through food, which I think is better for birds in the long run. If you can do that, you know, if you can actually put that in there. Sometimes you do need, you know, I use a bit of calcium in water sometimes and stuff like that, but I try and aim to get everything in the food.
Yeah, wonderful. And we were talking off camera, look at the pair of us talking off camera about the benefits of kale. Conversations you never thought you'd hear Matt Eld and Lee Westerman say. For those of you who've seen us in the bar the night before, you'll know, you know, they were talking about kale on film, but kale is a superfood, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and it's got a lot of benefits to it. And you know, if you give it to the birds just as it is, they'll smash it, they'll eat it all. But you know, I put it in my egg food all the time, and it adds something to it. And same as all the other aspects, you've got to look at what you're putting in and look what it's adding. And if you don't need it, then don't put it in. I mean, birds will eat any egg food. People talk about this as the best recipe. That you've got to give them what they need during breeding season. And if you can do that through the egg food, it's better for you, really.
And I think that the testament to that is, you know, we're all, my wife calls us tinkerers. We're all tinkerers. You know, we like to tinker and we like to look at things. But I think if you've got that, you know, scientific knowledge and understanding behind it, then you're giving the birds things that you know are going to add value, going to add benefit to them. And as you say, they need different things at different times of the year.
Yeah, I do use the same recipe throughout the year, but what I will do is they'll get it more often as in breeding season, and through winter they'll get it just once a week or whatever like that. So that's increasing them vitamins and minerals throughout breeding season. Hopefully, you know, you'll get a good season, you'll fill plenty of eggs.
Yeah, well, that's a finger crossed. And talking about eggs, let's we'll have a little look now, because we have got some hens down on eggs. So as we've talked, we've got, you know, a number of birds on eggs already. Early start of the season here. Birds are in, credit to you, mate, in really, really good nick and looking good condition. There's the room is dominated by light birds, which may sort of surprise people, given the source of your original stock, which is the same source as my original stock. And we haven't mentioned his name yet, but he won't watch this because he doesn't watch the show. He tells me, and then he phones me up and, you know, gives me all kinds of abuse about the things I've said on it. So birds are from Gerald originally.
Yeah, the Warren. I think the reason that I've kept so many clays is that I did get some good birds that were in the clear line. I got some good hens, over year hens, and they produced me for the show bench. And because of that, I've kept the best quality birds I could. And the fact is that a lot of them were clears. I've got a lot more variation this year. You know, I'll keep 33, 34, 35 hens, but you can see probably 18, 19 clears.
Yeah.
But it's just the way it is. I'm hoping this year to, like I said before, to go into variegations a bit more and into greens and be competitive. But I've also got to try and keep the clears at a nice standard as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the balance, isn't it, of you know, breeding a stud of birds and and developing a line and having the, you know, regardless of the colour, having the quality and the stamp and the style across the birds. You've got, you know, a copy of the model in the room, which is always encouraging to see. You've got that focus on, well, this is what I want to breed, this is what I'm looking to breed. And, you know, we know, whether that's, you know, talking to Keith Ferry, whether that's talking to Pete Harrison, you know, whether it's talking to any of the real sort of legends of the fancy men who've had birds for 40, 50, 60 years or more, that sort of fixation on the model is what continues to drive them, and that excitement of sort of going, okay, well, I've paired this with this, and I've paired this with this because I think it's going to improve this specific feature, or I'm excited about what comes off it.
Yeah, I think for me that's not just part of it, it's a big thing for me, is breeding a bird to a standard. If you just said, just go breed some birds, I still enjoy it, but not anywhere near as much, because this is a challenge.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very competitive, I always have been. And not to say that I want to win every show, I like to be up there or being competitive. And as long as I can continue that, I'll be happy. And to reach that model, which no one's reached yet or anywhere near, you need to start with good stock, don't you? You need good birds, and you need to do a lot of research, because otherwise it'll be 10 years before you get anywhere near what other people are doing. And when you're looking at other people's sheds, especially for a novice starting out, say you go to Gerald's every week and you're seeing some of the best birds in country, or you're going to Adams or whoever, or being competitive every single week and winning specials, it can be daunting, because it's such a high standard from the best end to the worst end in their shed. But you just got to do the best of what you can and be competitive in the novice to start with. But the end goal is to be competitive in the champions. That's what you've got to be aiming for straight away, I think.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, where you are now is you sort of, you're learning the art of stockmanship, and you're learning the art of of selection and breeding and pairing, and you've got access to some incredible birds which have set you on your way, yeah. But you've got that access because you've made that happen, and I think that's one of the important things. People said the same about me. I didn't dominate the novice section as you have, but I was competitive there. I think my first trip to Gerald was on about year 2 or year 3 of keeping birds, so I didn't go there straight away. I think I'm fascinated by the plans, because there are some stunning birds in this room, mate. There are birds I look at in here and think, yeah, these are really nice. You've got a nice line of cinnamon birds that you're working on.
Yeah, I've started off slowly, and last year I took the best bird that I could get to start me off with Gerald, bred from those, and this year I've been lucky enough to breed a few cinnamons, and I've brought a couple in to try and start that line off. It's early days, and I might not be competitive this year within that line, but certainly the year after that I'll build up to that, and try and be competitive across the colours, be competitive. I'll always have smaller teams in certain colour specials and bigger teams in others, but I like to be able to show a team which can cover all those 7 specials. Yeah, and that I guess that's the challenge for all of us, isn't it? As breeders, you want that quality, and there's very few studs. You've mentioned a couple that do achieve it. There's very few studs that compete across all of the colours. You have mentioned a couple that do consistently. Wonderful stuff, mate. Well, let's have a little look at some of these birds a little bit closer. Looking at the setup in the room, you do what many of us do as fanciers, where you've got kind of row of hens, and then you've got the cocks. Either I've got them above and I've got them below, and in here you've got them below. So over here, got a couple of really nice sort of light yellow cockbirds. I'm not going to say they're clear because I can't see any marks on them, but yeah.
but I'm not judging them in a cage, so I'm not going to make that mistake. And then a number of different buff hens, so kind of ratio of what 1 to 3, maybe 1 to 4 you're running.
Yeah, 1 to 3 ideally, but 1 to 4, 1 to 5 if needed. It's like, for example, with this row here, I'll run this cockbird over these 3 hens, which is the hen he went to last year, plus his 2 daughters. I am running it close this year, but that'll be the only time this line will get run that close. And what I'll also do is I will change the cockbird at some point with this row, just to try and see what a different style of cockbird produces. With me learning, I compare them all I want, but until them birds are fully grown, I'm not going to see what's going to come out. So if I change the cockbird maybe for a 3rd round towards the end, and then I can compare different style of cockbird with different styles of hens. Just it's a bit of a learning curve for me.
Yeah, and the thing is, we're always learning, and I think as fanciers, the day we think we've stopped learning and we know it all is probably the day to pack in, to be honest, because talking and spent some time in the company of Peter Harrison a couple of weeks back now, and the episode that we got with Pete, it was really, really fascinating. What he talked about and how he was putting birds together, and there is that real. There's no. One of the things Pete said, which really sort of hit home, is there's no magic formula. We can have an approach and a process that we use, but actually, if it was as easy as a magic formula of pairing birds, then we'd all be doing it. And so there isn't. What's important is the quality of the birds that you're working with to start with. You've got 2 bad birds. It doesn't matter how close you pair them. They're only going to breed birds of poor quality. So you need the good birds to start with. And then as you develop things, it is about experimentation, and I think you talked about it here, you articulated before, you like what that pair's bred, so you put them together again. Well, I've got 20 odd years on you. I've done exactly the same in the Canary room this year with a pair of birds which I really like the young, and then you're trying that cockbird over a couple of his daughters, and you talked about for maybe the second or third round you'll try a different cockbird, but there's the important thing, and I think it for me it came through in what you said, is there's a reason why you're doing it. So you're not just doing it because you think, I'll see how that goes. You're doing it because that's a smaller cockbird, and you'd be interested in seeing what comes through.
Yeah, it's a smaller cockbird with a little bit less shape, but they've got good shape, so I'd like to try that. But I know that both the daughters are an improvement on the mother, in my opinion. So that pairing's done its job. It's improved that line.
Yeah.
Now putting the cockbird back to the two ends, hopefully I can improve that line again and get it to where I want it to be. And then if I change the cockbird and see what it produces, it'll give me knowledge for the year after. Really, that's the kind of thing. I wouldn't do that with every single trio or whatever I'm breeding, but I will do that and test the water on different pairings, and I think that's the only way I'm going to progress.
Yeah, I think that absolutely makes absolute bucket loads of sense, mate. I think, it's as we sort of stand there, it's always good. It's always good to be in other people's rooms. It's always good to be in other people's company. And I think, one of the things that we look at in the hobby is, who we learn from. And for me, there has to be a real openness about who you learn from. So often in the hobby, we look at people who have been really successful, and those are the people that we look to learn from, and completely understand that. I think we can all learn from each other. I'd certainly come in here today, I've seen some of the things that Lee's doing, and I like it. I like some of the things Lee does are slightly different to what I do. Doesn't make them right, it doesn't make them wrong, it just makes them slightly different. And I think what's important for all of us is that constant approach, that constant sort of challenge to do better and refine things. So I guess I'd probably say, Lee, you're doing things slightly differently this year based on the experience last year, is that
100%, yeah. What worked last year, I've emulated it this year, I've done it again, and what I will do is I might change it again the year after, not majorly, just small points until I start getting it right. You're never going to get it right every time, but just getting it slightly better each year and improving. And you pick up bits from different people. Just because someone breeds brilliant birds doesn't mean they've got the best husbandry, or they've got the best, they're giving the best egg food, or they've got different ways that they don't produce the most birds. So you can learn them different aspects from different fanciers. But then you might go to someone who seems to be winning and look what they're pairing up, look what birds they're retaining. Look at what, because every bird's got a fault. Look at what faults are out there stud and how you can improve that.
Wonderful, super stuff. So listen, we've got a belting episode, I think, today, mate, and it's been a joy. It's been a real joy to spend a bit of time with you. So appreciate your hospitality. Birds are looking great. Wish you the very best of luck in the breeding season. And the show season. I don't think you'll require much luck in the show season, to be honest, based on what the stock that you're working with here. Couple of last words from you, little bit of advice for someone coming into the hobby.
Yeah, I'd say if you're coming to hobby, I'd say if you're going to build a shed, just double the shed and build it twice as big as you think you're going to need. Otherwise you'll build another shed next door. And whatever your budget is, don't go for quantity, go for quality. So if you haven't got a massive budget, then just get 5 pairs and start with good birds, because starting with birds that are nowhere near the model, you're going to be a long time before you get anywhere near, because it's small gradual changes. And also look to the champions or good novices for advice. So like I have with you and other fanciers, I've asked for advice, and I ask more questions than I need to really most of the time, but I like to make sure I'm getting it right first time. Otherwise you could waste a full season getting it completely wrong. So and do your research, watch the Canary room, pick up things, pick up tips, and does it work for you?
Yeah, Watch the Canary Room. God love him. Bless it. He wasn't even cued to say that. Thanks, mate. Listen, if you've enjoyed it, and why wouldn't you have, hit the like, hit the subscribe button, and share the bloody hell out of it. Keep an eye for the name Westerman, Lee Westerman. Keep an eye out from it, because this man is going to be, a force. He's a force in the fancy now. He will be for years to come. So remember, we got him there first. We knew him when he was just a mere novice. Until next time, everyone, take care.